Today is a very big day in the analog world of photography. The reason why is because Kodak is bringing back Ektachrome. Ektachrome 100 is a slide film that was discontinued back in 2012. The reason why is because, well, the sales weren't really as great as, say, Tri-X or Portra. I think we all kind of have to agree on that one. It's a slide film, so it's really tough to work with. You really have to get the exposure perfectly correct. There aren't very many slide films to begin with on the market right now. Most of them are actually negative films. The few slide films available are actually Fujifilm, Velvia, Fujifilm Pro 400. Lomography has a couple. There's not really a lot, though. The majority of them are actually negative films. The reason why is because, once again, those are easier for photographers to work with and they're easier to process. With slide film, you really have to make sure that you get the exposure perfectly, totally correct. Otherwise, you're not really going to have much of a chance to actually try to get more out of it in post-production. They're really hard to work with, and they're kind of a badge of honor for many photographers. In December 2016, I had the chance to actually talk with a couple of Kodak reps about exactly what's going on with Kodak Ektachrome. Kodak Ektachrome is coming back in the 35mm format, and that's really what they're focusing on at the moment. They may bring it back in 120, but they really want to see and demonstrate the fact that 35mm can actually work on the market. Kodak is also trying to ensure that it matches the original emulsion as much as possibly can, but there can be some complications involved there. Now, as I was in this meeting, one big thing was really on my mind. So, Kodak Ektachrome was designed to work one way with the lenses and cameras at the time, and film cameras don't really have any major effect on the way that the film will look, but lenses do. And since 2012, there have been a lot of major lens innovations. I mean, take a look at the stuff that Sigma, Tamron, Leica, Zeiss, and a whole bunch of other brands are really producing. A lot of the effects are very high contrast, they're very sharp. So when you take a film like Kodak Ektachrome, you have to think about just how the lenses will actually affect the way that film looks. Is it going to be very high contrast? And then how do you actually try to expose for a film like that when you have a very high contrast and very sharp lens? I'm sure if you mate like a Zeiss Milvis lens onto a Nikon camera, then you're going to get very contrasty images with any film that you get. I mean, that's what it's like with digital cameras. So when you put this slide film inside, I'm really curious to know what it's going to be like, and if you're going to have to be very cognizant of the fact that your scene has to be super low contrast, if you're going to have to only shoot in shadows, what's it going to be like in studios, like, that's really what's going through my mind. And Kodak at the moment doesn't really know or have an answer, but they said that they're going to have an answer later on in the year because they're still kind of developing and trying to tweak. And that's also why there are no sample images yet from the film. Before Ektachrome was discontinued, it was considered to be the replacement to Kodachrome. Now, a lot of photographers know better and know that no, Ektachrome really can't look like Kodachrome. I mean, Kodachrome's colors came out in the darkroom. It was originally just a black and white film, and that was part of the process. But with Ektachrome, Ektachrome has E6 processing, so the colors are actually built into the film. When the film's developed, the slides also look and have this full color to them. They're really beautiful. But with regular negative film, you kind of get this reversed, embossed image. It's different. Kodak Ektachrome was used by National Geographic's photographers. It was also used by a bunch of other photographers. I mean, if you go onto Flickr and you look up Kodak Ektachrome groups, you'll find a whole lot. Arguably, it's more popular with landscape photographers, but I've made it work for me a lot better for portraiture. Granted, it's still pretty tough to work with, but you can actually get really amazing colors out of it if you just sit there, work with it correctly. My go-to method for working with Kodak Ektachrome is to try to find as much shadow as I possibly can. Then, when there's much less contrast in the scene, I'm able to photograph a better image of the person. It's kind of the same way that I shoot digitally. We go into shadows because there's more control over the exposure, and you just kind of have to sit there and work with the shadows more or less. Ektachrome isn't really like Kodak Portra. Kodak Portra is a negative film, and arguably one of the better ways to work with Kodak Portra 400 is to shoot it at 200 and then develop at 320. That's indeed what I've done a couple of times, and I've gotten really, really great images that way. I have to say I'm a little concerned. I really do want Kodak Ektachrome to come to market, but I'm really concerned about how Kodak is actually really going to market it. They still market Portra, they still market Tri-X. A lot of people still really talk about that because they're very iconic films. But I never thought that Ektachrome really got the level of, say, Portra or Tri-X or even Kodachrome. Still, it's a really great film, and I believe that it's going to do well. I just think that Kodak has to find a new way to market to the new analog photographers that are out there. Personally, I'm pretty excited about the return of Kodak Ektachrome. A lot of my friends used to actually give me their rolls of it because they weren't going to shoot it, but they had some of it just in case, and they knew that I really love the film. I like Portra, I like Ektar, I like Tri-X, I like Velvia, but nothing to me really gives off a feeling like Ektachrome. The reason why this means a hell of a lot to me is because Ektachrome, one, was my favorite film, but also the fact that on my spare time, I actually shoot a lot of film. A lot of my commercial work is mostly digital, but a lot of my personal work is film. So being able to work with a slide film again means a lot to me. Plus, once again, I'm talking about that badge of honor that a lot of us had because of the fact that we could shoot slide film. Most people went and they shot negative film because it's more forgiving, but slide film, you really have to get that image quality just right. Digitally speaking, there were a couple of CCD sensors that did emulate slide film. I mean, the sensor in the Leica M9, the original one, actually really looked like chrome film. It shot like that as well, too. There are a couple of others on the market, but most sensors these days are CMOS, and they mostly emulate the look of negative film. Once again, because most people wanted that. The thing about film is that, yes, you can sit there and you can get a digital photo and you can apply a preset and you can have it look like film, but 90% of the time when you go into a lot of these Facebook groups or these Flickr groups or anywhere on Instagram, they don't really look like film. Film has a daylight white balance. To try to get it to shift colors, you're going to have to do a lot of work, and what ends up happening is a lot of people just deliver an image that doesn't truly look like film. It just looks like something digitally with the shadows crushed or some weird thing that actually just looks weird most of the time. But with actual film, there's a process involved. You have to sit there, you have to think about exactly what you're going to do, and then you take a shot. It's a lot more hands-on, spending less time behind the camera, less sitting there shooting, chimping, making adjustments, all that type of stuff. You really have to sit there, work with a portrait subject if you're shooting a portrait, or sit there and work with certain things to get more out of a landscape. You're going to need graduated filters and all that type of stuff. I'm really excited for Kodak Ektachrome personally, and I'm going to be really happy to shoot with it whenever I get a chance. For more news about Kodak Ektachrome and how it's going to progress, be sure to check out the Photographer, our website, and then also be sure to stay tuned to this YouTube channel. We're going to post updates as they come in. Thanks a lot.